Everybody, how's it going? So it's been actually probably been about a week since the last video clip you saw of me driving around. And I drove around a little bit more um, from one you guys saw. And I went through the ditch and everything. I went through that ditch and stuff, and I went through the ditch over here. Now I was crawling around and having some fun on it. But I don't really think the suspension is going to work. I was very moderately driving it around. I wasn't even driving around very hard at all. And you can see that it is just completely smoked. So especially if you look under here, that and that were straight, completely straight with the frame. And obviously you can see that they're completely smoked. And you can see that the whole arm is into the frame on both sides, and it actually won't even let it do any suspension travel because it'll just smash in the frame. And you can obviously see that because they're both in, that's making my tie rod even longer than it needs to be, which is pushing the tires inwards, just completely screwing it all up. So there are several more reasons, of which I'm gonna delete this front suspension and just gonna put on this for now because I want to keep riding this thing. Number one, the biggest thing is everybody. So I got it all put up. I got it all taken out and laying over there and over there. And so obviously I wasn't really wanting to put this axle in stock. So I, did what everybody else does, which is kind of like the worst thing ever, to do what everybody else. Anyway, so I did this. You can see I, did all this. So this is my, not really original axle, but this is one of the ones that I put in here. It's a cast iron axle. So I didn't really like the pivot point being right there. Obviously I wanted to give it more flex and travel, so I welded it up here. I cut this out of another cast iron that I had, that I cut stuff for that front suspension out of. And so I cut that off. I cut the circle out of it. It pretty much was like this, and I cut the circle out of it, and then I ground it down and welded it up here. I grounded this piece flat and this piece flat on top here, or on the bottom, I guess. Actually, this was the top, because anyway, so I grounded it all flat and I put it on there. I made sure it was square to this face and this face, and I tacked it on, and then I welded it all the way along here. I heated it up first with the torch. Then I absolutely just burnt it in, and then I ground it down. Ow, it's still hot. Ground it down flush on both sides. You can see now it's nice and nice and flush on both sides. Then I tossed in these support pieces. They're kind of useless. Or not really useless, but I don't really think they're necessary. Now I'm gonna put this thing back in here. I got these pieces bolted together. This one's a little loose, so I can slip it in there, and we'll see what it does. Okay, so I was riding this thing, having a lot of fun. The motor wasn't running real good at the end, but I was just kind of riding it through the ditch and stuff. And you can see that this thing is pretty bent. You can see that one over there, this one right here, is pretty bent. This one's fine, but this one's bent. It has a lot of articulation. Oh, because it's hitting right there. Yeah, you can see that. If you pulled it out, and then it goes way up. So I want to redo this whole entire piece, this whole entire plate. I want to make it out of the same stuff I did with the suspension, that 1x1 square tubing. And let's get to it. Okay, everybody, so I've been working on the front end of the mud mower, strengthening it up and stuff. And this is what I've came up with. You can see it right here. This is going to bolt into the frame, just like that. And that's where your pivot point is, right there, that hole. I got it all braced up, triangulated and everything. I got a bracer bar here because the original pieces were two-piece. I didn't really like the two-piece. I feel it lets it flex too much, so I welded them together. It's only one piece in the middle, but it's fine. It's still plenty strong. I did that in the machine with it all bolted up and tight with the axle in it and bolted up as well. So that's exactly where it needs to be. It's not, you know, twisted any way it's not supposed to be. Yeah, I got it pretty good. The wire I'm using isn't that good. It's pretty junky wire, but yep, it works good. Holes are fairly lined up enough. So let me bolt. So what I did, I guess, I'll tell you. So I took these two pieces. They set in the frame like this, one on this side and obviously one flipped over, which is out. And then I cut the ears off of them. The ears used to be like this, and they'd mount to the side of the frame. I cut those off there because they already had these threaded tapped holes. They're even strengthened up. You can see they're underneath there. They're thicker. And I cut them off right here. Slice and slice. I ground them and cut them a little bit, and I welded them. This 1-inch pipe fit right perfectly in between the two holes. So that's what I did. And then in order to keep this 1 7/8 spacing right here, that's what it is, by the way. I had to weld this 1-inch piece onto the front side, and this 1-inch piece right here flush. I had to keep it flush with this, and that gave me 1 7/8 clearance, I guess. And then I cut this piece 1 7/8, weld that in, and it's very sturdy. It's not going nowhere. I've got it all braced up once again. So the biggest thing is this one's, everything's going to want to come back. So this is better than flat bore because it's rolled on each edge, and that's going to keep that from going in. Another thing I got to tell you, so this hole originally in here was from the top of the frame to it's about here or whatever. It was 3.5 inches from the top of the frame to center the hole. I moved that to 3 7/8, so about 3/8 of an inch farther down, so it'll lift it about 3/8 of an inch, and it'll also give it quite a bit more flex. 3/8 of an inch down here doesn't seem like much, but when you put it on the machine, it's quite a bit. So let's bolt this thing in. Let's look at it. Okay, everybody, so I got it all bolted up. I still, again, use these 4 bolts on both sides that the original piece came from. And this is how it looks right here. I can actually get a light so you guys might be able to see a little bit better. Or probably worse. But yep, that's how it looks. So now you can see what I did originally. I moved this pivot point, which was the original pivot point. I moved that up to here with this piece right there, that weld right there that I ground down. But I got the piece coming all the way across, right there, on both sides. You can see the one back there. And then I've got the 2 pieces coming down, and then I've got the triangle brace and everything like that. I got it all ground down a little bit. I had to buy a bolt. This is a 7/16 by 5 inches long, with the nut on the back. So yeah, it's pretty sweet. Happy with the way it turned out. Still got to paint it up, but it should be very, very strong, and it's going to strengthen up this part of the frame, this whole front part, because this is one piece, these 2 front and back half. So I'll show you the angle right here. Since it's pretty stiff, it should hold itself up fairly well. Hold the phone straight. Flip the other way. Practically climb a vertical wall now. Or vertical in the other way, you know. This light's pretty cool. So let me put it down, and I'll show you how it looks on the ground. So here it is on the ground. So originally we had very little when the mower was original. You know, we probably only had about 5 inches. After doing this mod, changing this pivot point to this pivot point, we had, you guys can see about 12 inches right there. And now, I measured that before. I'm not just making that number up. So now if I give this ratchet a couple more clinks right here, and go up as high as I can now, which is right there, you can see now that is touching right there. Now let's see how much we have. Oh, more than 12, more than 14. We have about, I just can't really see that. We have about 14 inches of travel. You can see the 14 right there. 14 inches, 15 inches, about 15 inches of travel. And that tire's on the ground. And this tire is plenty on the ground. And this tire is barely squished. So that's what it looks like. Completely crazy looking. 3/8 of an inch difference doesn't make too big of a difference in the height of the front of the tractor. It still sits pretty level, slightly lower in the rear, but when I get some bigger tires, that'll work out good. And that's what you see. I really didn't like having that plate that sat right in here. I think it looked really crowded and not very good. So if you look down the machine pretty well, the axle looks pretty straight. If you look where it sits when it comes fully in contact with this bore on both sides, it sits about a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch from this outside edge, both of them. So it's very in line, it's very sturdy, and very tight. And I got my cross linkage right there, welded all the way across, the big bore, 3/4 inch, maybe not 3/4 inch, but then I've got these nice steering thingies, same thing right there. And I made my own piece, drag link or whatever you want to call it, and it steers this way as well, and it runs. I just put a humongous 340 cold cranking amp battery. So yeah, I'm gonna put my front bumper back on. Now this is gonna be serious. I'm gonna paint it all. So yep, see you later. Okay, and there it is, all posed up and everything. That was actually the perfect, because it's just as flexed out as it can get. So yeah, it's working pretty good. Should work for a long time. So yeah, the new battery fires it right up. Actually sounds kind of cool too, if it wants to.